G'day viewers. So we're back with another antique sword video. In this case we're going to be looking at 4 different kinds of essentially small swords. The reason for doing this is basically I've been asked for a flat bladed small sword as recommended by Sir William Hope in New Method for ages and ages, and I happened to come across one in an antique store just the other week, and so I snapped it up and I thought this would be a good opportunity to compare 4 different kinds of essentially small swords, and I'm going to be joined by my friend Dan. Like 2 of the swords are his, 2 of them are mine, and he knows a lot more about them than I do from the arms collecting point of view, and so we're going to be talking about the interesting aspects of each sword design. So we're going to look at some antique small swords. The first 3 of them are all around about the same age, that is sort of 1640 to 1650. So let's start with this one, because this is very much a very typical small sword that you get pretty well all the way up into the 18th century. So tell us about it, Dan.
So this is English. It's from the 1640s, and the hilt and the wire, I'm just trying to let you have a good look at that, is all silver. And it's all done in this sort of cut and chased kind of fashion, so that when it was new and was sort of highly polished, you could wear it to a ball or just even wear it out, and all of those little facets cut into the silver there would catch the light and it would shine as if diamonds were put into it. It's exceptionally light because it's, I don't know if you can see there, the hilt is pierced all the way through there, the pommel's pierced all the way through there. It weighs
350 grams.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah. Utterly nothing. It's got a sort of a very classic kind of épée blade on it. It's very, very stiff. There is absolutely no flex in it at all. Yeah, it's just a generally very nice example.
Yes, very nice. This one, from about the same era, but as you can see has a much, much wider blade. So could we call this a Kalishimad?
Close to, I would say it's if not, it's very, very close.
Yeah.
It's wide enough that you could probably stop something that had a bit more cut to it, something like a spadroon or maybe a transitional rapier.
Yeah, and it weighs 450 grams, so 100 grams heavier than that, which in terms of percentage of the weight is quite a lot.
Yeah.
The fittings are again pierced. You can see that ricasso bit there, that's hollow. The pommel also hollow.
The guards pierced all the way through.
The guards pierced all the way through.
The same way as that as well.
And it sits in the hand absolutely beautifully with that sort of bulbous bit there. If I'll turn around this way, my thumb just sits there in exactly the place I want to hold it. It's really, really nice. And we think this one might be German, but...
Yeah, I'm not too sure. It could be German. It could be anywhere on the continent, really, with those kind of fittings.
Yeah. Again, also incredibly stiff, no flex at all. And if I hold them both, even though this is lighter, honestly, you don't feel it.
No.
It's...
The difference really comes in when you have to wear it all day. And that's really what a lot of these were going for. They want to be light because you're going to put it on your hip and walk around all day.
And not do all that much dueling, I presume.
No. Probably not, especially with this. You're probably not wearing this because you intend to use it. If you have to, you can, but it's about looking good.
Yeah. Whereas this one, I think it's a much plainer set of fittings. And with that really broad, practical blade, I think this was probably intended for fighting.
It's interesting as well when you look at the part arms there. They're quite large. You can very comfortably pass a finger through. When you look at these ones here, I physically can't, not even close.
Not that you should be putting your finger through. McBain says don't do that.
No, but absolutely. If I'm holding that, they are just there to space that shell.
Yeah, so your thumb does not bang into the shell. The other thing about this one is the blade's shorter than that. That's nearly 31. This one's 28 from there, but I get about another inch from that large part arms there, which makes the difference in length trivial. So those are the first two, and they really are classic small swords.
Yeah, you'd see them all about Europe at that point.
Now, Sir William Hope, in his later, more experienced period, actually says he doesn't like Kalishimad blades. In fact, he's not particularly fussed about triangular small swords at all. He says what you want is a rapier with a good edge. So he wants a blade that you can still cut with. And he also says that you want what he calls a poor man's blade. That is something that is flat and flexible, so it's less likely to snap. I've been after one of these for a long time, and I found one in an antique shop not all that long ago, and I snapped it up. And this is it here. So it's about 33 inches in the blade, so it's quite long. And as you can see, the blade is a fairly thick hexagonal diamond section thing all the way up to there. And it does have a reasonable amount of flex, so it's not going to snap should I hit the Bible in somebody's breast pocket while I'm fighting with it. The fittings are solid. Okay, there's some piercing on the shell, but the rest of the fittings, this is just solid silver. And it weighs 550 grams, which is more than either of the other two, but it feels even heavier than that. It feels a little bit droopy. Now, obviously, you're not going to take anybody's limbs off with that, but it does have enough of an edge that I could slice somebody across the face and effectively cut them open, which is really, or hit them on the hand and make them drop their sword, which is really all that Hope is fussed about. So this is very much the sort of thing that Hope would approve of. Do you have anything to add to that, Dan?
You can, if you were to get some calipers out, we'd find that this shell here is actually substantially thick. It's the first thing I noted on when I picked it up.
Yes, that is quite a heavy shell.
And it's interesting, so we'll just talk a little bit about the cosmetics here. You'll notice that it's entirely plain this side. But if you turn it inside, you can see again that sort of all of those cut silver sort of sections, all those little dots. That's again the exact same one style as we saw before, where the polish will make it shine beautifully. The reason for this is when you wear it, it's pointing up, so you don't care what's underneath the shell. It speaks to the fact that this is probably a cheaper one. You don't bother decorating the bit no one's ever going to see. You only decorate the bit people will see.
Yes. Speaking of wearing it, one of the coolest things about this sword is that it came with at least a partial scabbard. So I'm going to put it back in the scabbard so we can show that off. So that's the scabbard. It's wood, possibly bamboo.
I think so, yeah.
Covered in what appears to be paper or vellum, maybe.
I think it's vellum. It's very, very thin. It's designed to be as light as possible.
Yeah.
It's not structural at all, because it's only ever going to sit over a sword.
I think it has sadly lost a few inches off the end, popped through, but nonetheless, we have a scabbard. And the coolest thing about that is that it's got this thing. Does that thing have a name?
It might have a specific name. I just call it a clip. And these were very, very common. So you do see, I think in some of Angelo Senior's illustration, they're wearing them on a baldric. But if you look at a lot of art that depicts gentlemen of the period, they're wearing a very simple clip like this and a chain, which is longer at one end than it is at the other, so that it'll sit at that
at that angle. So if it's sitting on your hip, as Dan was saying, all you can see is the fancy bit there. You can't see there.
Yeah.
And this clip thing clips on your belt just really, really easily. It's such a fantastic invention. I'm amazed it wasn't more widely used. And we'll insert a little bit of video of me doing that in a minute.
Yeah. There you go.
So here's the belt clip thing, which is curved and has this big thing there. And you just slot it over your belt or into your pants. And this bit sits over the belt and locks the whole thing in, so it's not going anywhere. It's not going to come loose or fall off. And it's fantastic. It's such a cool way of carrying your sword. And should you need to take it off and leave it at the door because it's that sort of establishment, very, very easy to do that, to take that off and hand it over or hang it up in your hallway when you get home. So excellent, very cool.
Still has the original. These are original as well. Those little hooks are original.
Really? There you are.
Those are original.
Look at that. So you can still buy those in the hardware store today.
Yeah, tiny little bit of spring steel in there, which you may or may not be able to see.
So you can just clip it in and off.
Push it in and off. And that's it.
There you are. Well, I am going to be more happy and confident about using those on scabbards in the future now that I know their period.
Yeah.
And there's an extra little ring there. I wonder what that was for.
I think the ring between this one and that one is broken.
Right.
And they've just shortened it. So
Yep.
it's not normally that short on that.
Right. Yeah, I see. Yes, it probably has. Because you can see little ring, big ring, little ring, big ring.
Yeah. But you could probably replace that.
I probably could.
This is not really video content.
So this is the sort of Hope approved small sword. When I compare it to the other two, you really do feel that it now has weight. So I would be more confident in parrying something more sword-like with this than I would with even the Kalishimad, because it's just got a lot more presence, and it's got enough extra weight that it is now just a little bit slower. So if you start parrying too widely, you would lose control of this very quickly. It's not like the other two that weigh essentially nothing. You can flick them around with your fingers willy-nilly and not worry about that sort of thing. So a rapier with a good edge. The last one we've got is also an edged weapon. So what the hell is this thing?
So this one's a bit weird. I bought it and it was described as a Master at Arms sword, which is a sort of a naval rank. Basically, I don't believe they had a pattern sword, so you could kind of have whatever you want. The blade, you might be able to make it out there. It says, I'll try and get it to focus, "For my country and king." We'll get a nicer photograph of that. So we know these exact kind of blades are marked to Runkel in many cases, so we know it's beginning of the Napoleonic Wars. This is ebony with, there's little steel bars in there which have just tarnished down to match the ebony, and a sort of a steel hilt there. Would have originally had a chain that went from this little ring, that little gap there.
Which acts as a knuckle bow, presumably?
Sort of. They're not really going to stop anything, but that's the kind of the fashion at the time. Beaded sort of chains, but really it's a nice kind of spadroon-esque sort of cut and thrust. It's got a little bit more cut than maybe that small sword that you just saw. It's not going to take off arms, but it is very comfortable to fence with in a forward weight, like we expect to sort of see small swords used at the end of that.
Yeah, and it really, in the hand, it doesn't feel that much different to that one. The distribution of the weight is further back, which makes it actually feel a little bit more balanced than the earlier small sword. And it is, a much more effective cutting blade. You would do more damage with that.
It's also much thicker at the ricasso, and so down at the forte there, this is much thicker. It's a diamond section all the way up. And the handle is a lot more substantial. The thing I find about this is the handle is really large, even for a sword of its kind of size.
It is.
But it would give me a lot of confidence parrying sabers, even trying to move a pike out of the way, which is what you're looking at in the Georgian Navy, a cutlass or something like that.
Yeah.
I would be confident taking it up against it. It does have a fair bit of flex. I'm not going to flex it because of how sort of corroded this section of the blade is. Unfortunately, it wasn't looked after very well before me. But yeah, it's sort of the end of that kind of cutting small sword.
Yes. Yeah. Very nice. I'm sure Hope would approve.
Yeah, it's basically what you see in the book.
It's a very, very shearing sword. You just want a bigger hilt.
Yeah, more bars.
More bars, yeah. Is there anything else you want to add?
I don't know. Are we going to do the which one would you pick if you had to kill somebody?
All right, let's do that. So which one would you pick if you had to kill somebody?
Look, it depends what they're taking. If I'm on a ship, this. Every time this. Because as beautiful as the silver-hilted small sword is, it's not stopping a cutlass or a saber. But if I have to go to a nice ball and I want to impress all of the young ladies, that's not it. I'm going to have the nice silver looking thing and look very impressive.
Fair enough. Yeah. No, I think I agree with you and Hope in that, you know, a nice shearing sword is pretty well on the par with the small sword as far as thrusting goes, but you've also got cuts, which are going to be extremely useful in a practical sense. So yeah, no, I agree. I would have one of those too. And I would have this one over the other two for precisely the same reason. Being able to smack somebody on their hands and make them cut their fingers off, that would be useful.
Yeah, it's a pretty simple question if you want to live, right? Choose the thing that can do both.
Exactly. I hope you found that interesting. I've learnt a lot, so now I know a lot more about my small sword than I did before we did the video. So thanks for joining.